There we go. Oh, switch camera. All right. So we are live at the NCI Summit, and we are taking over. Basically, Adam Muffich was supposed to run this, and he's super busy. And so he said, I need the best of the best to come in and take over this spot. And so I just got a phone call 10 minutes ago, and he said, Chris, get me Michael Cianfrocco. And I said, I'll do my best. And we won. We got the Mike himself right here to the right. And we're going to interview some special people. So we're going to hop right into it. I'm going to start to the right and my right and work our way across the table. So if you don't mind, let's introduce ourselves. This topic is about CO2 awareness and safety and testing is kind of generally speaking what we're headed for here.
It's real close.
Okay.
We're talking about carbon monoxide safety.
Got it. Okay. Good stuff. All right, let's get this party started.
Yep. Good afternoon. My name's Ben DeMarco with DeMarco and Associates Heating and Air Conditioning.
Trump's right.
We're from Cleveland. Henry Sterling will introduce himself in a second. We've been studying with NCI for well over 20 years. In fact, in the carbon monoxide stuff, I actually trained with Jim Davis before he was even part of NCI back to like 1996. So we are very involved with this kind of stuff, and have been met this nice young lady, and this has been an intriguing last couple hours to discuss this stuff. So
Yeah, awesome.
I'm Sharon McNabb. I'm with the National Carbon Monoxide Awareness Association, NCOAA. It is a 501c3 located in Southeast Michigan, focused on eradicating CO poisoning because we believe CO poisoning is 100% preventable.
Mhm.
And that's why we're here today talking to all of these knowledgeable contractors about what they do to help prevent CO poisonings.
Hello, I'm Henry Sterling, and I'm with DeMarco and Associates. And I've been CO testing since 1998. And I did the same thing. I went through the Jim Davis class and just immediately saw a way to help people be safe.
Good stuff. So I want to jump into the 501c3. Can you describe to me the actionable items that the 501c3 is doing in the marketplace? What does that day-to-day business model look like?
Well, I appreciate the question. The industry, well, there's several industries that are affected by carbon monoxide. HVAC is one of them, but then you have fire, medical, building, manufacturing. And so carbon monoxide safety touches a lot of industries. So what we're doing is creating a comprehensive conversation on what it will take in order to prevent CO poisoning from a systemic issue. And from that, we're going to actionable items, meaning we're taking and building a coalition of those subject matter experts and focusing their attention on 4 key areas: data, emergency and trade response, science and technology, and code standards and regulations.
Okay. And what role you're part of the subject matter expert doing the testing in the field, am I right?
That is correct.
Okay. So when you're saying you're working with individuals like this gentleman here, what's the support you're seeing from the 501c3?
Great question. So we're here today to meet the contractors who understand CO poisoning so that they can help us figure out what we need to do differently. And these 5 gentlemen I met about 2 hours ago.
Awesome. Yeah, right. Networking
And
at
they're
its finest,
jumping
here.
right in, getting their feet dirty already.
That's very cool.
It's a passion of mine, has been since I started this. And as soon as I heard about Sharon's thing, I don't know. I had to find out what was going on.
Gotcha. Okay. How about yourself?
I'd say it's the same thing that Henry just mentioned. You know, our company does and has done a lot of carbon monoxide testing, and certainly anything we could do for prevention of any problems in people's homes and buildings. And it is misunderstood by the majority of people out there. The contractors that are here are a very small percentage of all contractors in the HVAC industry. And it goes beyond HVAC. You're touching building envelope, a lot of technical stuff, but there's a lot of ways that people can have a carbon dioxide poisoning. It doesn't just come from HVAC equipment. It can come from automobiles that are parked in a connected garage. You know, there's a lot of different things. And what Sharon's doing, I think, is really good in terms of you need to get key players to the table. Fire marshals are an example. We've dealt with a lot of fire chiefs and fire marshals who, when there's been a problem over the years in a building or someone's home, they're supportive of us telling a building owner or homeowner, hey, you have to get this fixed. This is a life issue. This is a life safety issue. You can't ignore this. But when a lot of other contractors in the marketplace don't understand this, they play it off like it's not a big deal.
Yeah. So coming from being a contractor my whole life and growing my knowledge as, you know, you work in the field, I'll tell you a short story. So one of the jobs that I did for a lady who kind of hired me to be her contractor / kind of like almost like a consultant to the build. This is an interesting case. It was a foamed house. And me and the builder went round for round. Foam encapsulated attic, right? And it was all the way covered to where the garage was also encapsulated in the roof. But when I didn't catch it toward closer to the end. And I really wasn't kind of there to do this. I knew the lady, so I was trying to just help out where I could. But when you pull the car into the house, if that car would have been running and she went in her house and went to sleep, there's a potential for the fumes of the car to go into the attic space, which is encapsulated, which is really part of the home at that point. And I think there's a huge, huge misconception that that's not the way that works. And so I fought that builder really hard. I said, I need you to put up a wall and isolate that part of the attic from this part of the attic. We have to create a separation here. I said, because that car, if cars, you have automatic crank, right? I was like, if that car cranks, there's a potential, that you could get sick or die.
Absolutely.
And so that's an issue I see in my area more often now.
Where are you from?
Louisiana.
Perfect. We have 2 board members who lost parents to that very issue.
Really? Yeah. It's interesting. I don't know where the awareness of this came from. And I'm trying to think if it was a news report. Like before I witnessed this, it was like, I'm always trying to get my education everywhere I can. And so I don't know if this was through the news, a YouTube video I've watched or something, but it was not even a month ago. I remember there being a story about a lady who passed away from that same scenario, and it stuck with me. And then I was kind of thinking about it, and I was just kind of getting into building science at that point. I was really starting to understand zonal pressures and, what happens is the attic really part of the house? And it's like, oh yeah, it is. And so through that experience, I'm glad, I was soaking like a sponge. And that's kind of the point of this show is awareness is this, like you had said earlier, it's not necessarily just the furnace itself that we have to watch out for. It's the furnace, it's the car, it's the hot water heater. A lot of things could, make you sick if they're vented improperly.
We have a lot of conveniences, but we all know that conveniences are only convenient if they're done properly.
Yeah.
So when you have those conveniences, you have to understand what other obstacles you're introducing into the situation and put the proper place guards in.
Yeah.
So you can do that from the beginning and design them all out, go electric, or you can put proper detection and monitoring in, and also education.
Yeah. Education's huge. And I mean, that's why you're probably here at the NCI Summit, right? I mean, I don't think anybody else trump cards NCI when it comes to, you know, CO. They're kind of the kings of it, is the way I see it. Like their education's, yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, they're trying to make everybody aware. They push hard.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do a very good job.
So I mentioned we have a coalition of subject matter experts. We have 150 unique subject matter experts crossing multiple industries. But what we lack is the expertise from the HVAC and maintenance installer field. And really, that's why I'm here, because there is no other conference that has the level of expertise in the field that you have here today. And these gentlemen are just a shining example.
Gotcha. So what I'm going to do real quick, I just want to let y'all know up to speed and everybody who's watching, we're having some camera issues.
Yeah, sorry about that.
So Mike, I'm going to switch places with you, let you take over for a minute. I'm going to see if I can get it
Yeah,
working.
yeah, give it a shot. Yeah, we were having a problem with this mixer. Getting into it. Okay, I'll see what I can do. Yeah, guys, sorry about that. But yeah, I'm from Florida, so we don't have a lot of carbon monoxide issues, but there are furnaces. So in my area, if you don't do combustion, you know, I always tell people find somebody who can, because it's dangerous, you know. But not a lot of guys have the equipment.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you that from my experience of all the years that I've been doing this, it's always about the money. Okay, because a CO analyzer is not $20.
Yeah,
it could be anywhere between $250 and 1,700.
Yeah, that's what
Okay.
I've seen. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and if you choose not to do that, I think you're putting a lot of people in, your employees and the people that you do work for.
Yeah.
You don't invest in those tools.
Absolutely.
You're also putting your business at risk from the liability.
Yeah.
There were two installers, father and son, who installed a tankless hot water heater at Evergreen University late last year, and a young man lost his life.
Oh,
2 other students were sent to the hospital, and a facility police officer who responding also went to the hospital.
oh my goodness.
And unfortunately, those 2 contractors are now being charged with manslaughter.
Oh, wow.
So
Really?
it is a huge risk that a company takes to do this type of work without the proper equipment and training.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's just, if you're in a heavy gas appliance area, I mean, I don't understand why. And in my market, Miami, okay, but that is, it's too much of a risk. I think Brian Orr had a little story he had on his show. 1800s, they had like chandeliers with gas. You ever hear that story? That was amazing. Person went to like an insane asylum, got better, goes back to the house. They thought it was haunted. No, it's carbon monoxide. And I'm sure chandeliers only output X amount of, gas and everything, but that's not good.
Well, and if you add to that the energy codes that have been pushed over the last 20 years, homes and buildings are better insulated. They're tighter.
Oh, right.
The
Yeah.
envelope is tighter. So there's more caution and care that has to be taken with making
Yeah.
sure that things are breathing properly, ventilated properly, so on and so
Yeah.
forth.
I didn't even think about that, because I've got 2,100 square foot house personally, and 3 ACH 50, right? So it's not the tightest, not the loosest, it's a good spot, but CO goes crazy. So if my carbon dioxide doesn't leave if I had monoxide, if I had a gas stove, that wouldn't leave. And I've been tracking that for 2-3 years. So
I mentioned to Sharon earlier, when I got involved with this years ago in my last house, our stove, your stove, if you have a gas stove,
yeah,
it's another source. And there's these little shutters that you can adjust in these stoves to try and minimize the CO, but you're still going to get it, especially on startup. And my wife used to freak out because in the winter I'd have the sliding glass door right off the kitchen open
Oh,
while
you
we
crack
were
it open?
cooking
that's
to
what I
drop
do.
the levels, while we were cooking. She's like, it's freezing. And I said, listen, let's just get through the cooking and then
Yeah,
we can close the door. But these are real things, tight houses. You can have depressurization problems.
yeah.
If
yeah.
you've got a connected garage up in Ohio, wintertime, people start their car, they open the garage door, they start their car, let it warm up.
Yeah.
And, then if their house is under a negative pressure, and that can happen from stack effect, it can happen
Yep.
from mechanical equipment, depends, a lot of variables that those car fumes can, you open the door to go out to your car and a lot of that stuff can get sucked into the house.
Yeah. That's where a lot of my clients, they have their filter
For
access
sure.
right there in the
Mhm.
garage.
For sure.
You know?
So, and then one other point I wanted to comment on that you guys were talking about liability and contractor awareness. I can get into a boatload of stories about if you're a contractor that knows about this stuff, is educated in it, and you have a circumstance where someone's got a hazard or a potential hazard,
Mhm.
you shouldn't feel bad about shutting their equipment off.
Right.
I told Sharon about a story from years ago. I shut down a daycare center where we found horrific carbon monoxide problems.
Oh, geez.
And unbeknownst to me at the time when I first went there, our company had been called to do a due diligence survey of the building like 6 months before this woman bought the building.
Okay. Yeah.
And our technicians wrote these units were shot. And they shouldn't have been run.
Okay. So they knew about
But she purchased the building in like July.
Yep.
We had done the survey in maybe May or June. She purchased the building and then moved the kids in. And then come like November when heating season started, people were getting sick.
Oh,
So I went there and I didn't know about what had happened prior with our technicians having gone there before.
goodness.
And I shut everything that was a problem. It said evacuate the building, shut
Good
everything
for
off. She wanted to call the news. She was threatening to sue me. And I said,
Let's
do
do
what
it.
you
Call the
want. I
news.
called the local
Yeah.
fire,
Yeah.
but I
We'll
called
do
the
it for
local
you.
fire department and I told them what happened. Well, by the time they got there, we had doors open
Yeah.
and things had been diluted. So
Right.
it wasn't a problem. I said, do whatever you want. I don't care. Sue me. I don't want to see someone go to the hospital
Yeah.
or die.
Yeah.
But you have to take that type of stance. Henry and I have done it.
Well, I
Quite a
don't
bit
know
over
the
the years.
physics of it, but the little ones would be, it would
Children,
be worse, right?
children and the
Okay.
elderly, let Sharon comment, we know are can be more adversely affected with levels of carbon monoxide than healthy.
Give me the
adults.
willies with, like
Oh yeah.
that's unfortunate. Really, that breaks my heart. That's sad stuff.
So I have a question for those who are watching and listening. Like you don't have furnaces in your market.
No,
right?
no, I got like
you're in
two,
Florida.
like one
It's
client.
like, what's a furnace, right?
Yeah.
So for Mike and some of the others who don't touch furnaces ever, maybe they're not, and it can come from other appliances, but generally in this arena that we're in, we're HVAC guys. For those HVAC guys who aren't working on furnaces and they come across one and they go test, what numbers are they looking for? Like, can you speak on that a little bit?
Well, actually, you want to see as little as possible.
Yeah.
0 to 5 parts per million, and you got low. At 5 parts per million, you have low levels of carbon monoxide. So, you have to be careful. All right. Now, we all personally have a percentage of, I think it's 1 to 4 parts per million in your body already. Okay, you have it. I have it. Now, a smoker,
We know Mike's got it.
a smoker would have even more.
Oh, okay.
All right. Because they're burning something and they're inhaling the smoke.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Right? So these are things that, when you go to a facility, whether it's a building or a home, okay, you really, anything, it's got to be under 5.
Under 5.
So
Okay.
5's your cutoff. 5 is get out of your house.
So the World Health Organization says be no more than 4 parts per million over the course
Okay.
of 24 hours. A rise in CO of just 1 part per million has shown a spike in hospitalization, specifically with cardiac issues. So even at the very low levels, it can be super dangerous for vulnerable groups.
Right.
And then just to dive a little bit deeper into
Yeah,
that,
please. Yeah.
I understand, I'm not an HVAC guru, but I understand that it's really important to use a combustion analyzer on a furnace because without that, you don't know how much that furnace is producing.
Right.
And the lower the amount of carbon monoxide, the longer the life of the furnace. And also the lower the chance of carbon monoxide poisoning. So sweet spots from talking to furnace manufacturers is somewhere below 100, 150 tops. So even if the venting does have an issue, the lower the carbon monoxide generation is best for the furnace and for the occupants.
Wow. I would just go with a heat pump. I mean, this is just too much for me.
Well, that's not.
You got
doesn't
carbon
fit-
monoxide in the heat pump?
No, stove, water heater,
Yeah.
car connected
Yeah.
garage.
Right.
My parents have a house in Florida. They have an air handler heat pump set up.
Yep.
But the water heater is, I think it's in a closet, like off the utility room, and I think that's gas.
Right.
So
Yep.
it can come from a lot of different areas. Certainly, there's the less gas burning appliances you have,
Yeah.
you start lowering your chances that there's less things that could cause a problem.
Your potential
Correct. The
leakage,
potential
right.
starts dropping, but it doesn't mean that it can't come from other things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, because you could be cooking Thanksgiving and that stove's running all day.
Could you guys speak on what some of the low level toxifications of, let's say you got 5 parts per million in your house? Can you kind of talk about if there's a homeowner who stumbles across this show, which happens quite often, and let's just say they're dealing with nausea or something like that, or these symptoms, could you kind of describe what that feel, how do they know if
And
they're
where to
being
go?
intoxicated
a good
by
website.
CO? Yeah.
Such a great question. And unfortunately, this is the reason why carbon monoxide is still a problem, is because it looks like everything. Henry mentioned that we all have a little bit of CO in our body, and that's by design. It does a lot of good things. It basically is involved in every single chemical reaction in your body. But you get too much of it, and those systems start going haywire. And the ones that go haywire first are the ones that you're physiologically weakest on, right? So
Yeah.
if you have a weak digestive system or a weak pancreas or weak heart, that's what it's going to affect first. If your family has a history of anxiety, that's what it's going to look like first.
Right.
So it's really difficult to know. that
So
it's
it could
carbon
be,
monoxide.
it could come from anywhere. Essentially, if you're dealing with a medical issue and it's worsening, it's like it would not hurt to just check the CO level in your house,
I think everyone should check their CO level in their
Yeah.
house.
whether
And
you
not-
have
and not
gas
every
furnace
not
or
just and not just in your house. I carry a personal CO monitor with me wherever I go. Lots of hotels don't have CO detection.
Oh,
We
wow.
talked about daycares, right? Schools. We talked about a university.
Yeah.
Lots of buildings don't have CO detection, so it's really important to.
That's kind of wild when you think about it.
That's kind of
You know,
messed
that a
up.
public facility could get to a point where there's no CO detection and you're, like I've installed, can't tell you how many dedicated outdoor air systems with gas reheat. That's kind of a common practice where I'm from. And I guess I should be scolded for this. I can't say that I went around looking for CO monitors that were placed there.
Right.
I should have been. I mean, I could have upsold that. You know what I mean?
And
Could
not-
have made money. And
From
did
what
the
I
right
heard, not
thing.
every one of them is created equal, right? There's low level detection and there's
There is. I wish I was. This is not a topic that I am very, very grounded in. Airflow is kind of my thing. But I do know like I know NCI has a low level detection monitor, and I've heard kind of David Richardson talk to me about it. And this was probably 2 years ago. But I know like some of the monitors, they don't read as low as that one does, and that's kind of a big deal.
yeah, that's a big deal.
So I don't want to shoot anyone in the foot here. I don't know what this.
Just
Do y'all
don't
have a
mention any
monitor that
brands,
you
that's all.
recommend? Are we, what would you advise there?
Well, I would tell you that the low level carbon monoxide monitor from NCI is the one you want. Okay. Unfortunately, the UL listed ones from whatever manufacturer they are, and some people would know who they are, and I'm not going to mention them,
Right.
but
Yeah.
they have, their levels are much higher. The NCI goes off at 5 parts per million, starts to chirp and say, hey, hello,
Yeah.
I've got something going on. And then by the time it gets to 25 parts per million, it's screaming and it's time to get out, open the windows,
Right.
Call your HVAC guy, let's get this thing figured out.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm not a, like I told you, I'm not in a car, gas rich environment. Everything's electric, but wouldn't you want something real sensitive? Because by the time it dilutes through the house, wouldn't you want it to pick it up more? Like,
Well,
why
So
would
you mentioned Thanksgiving dinner, right?
Yeah.
Having the oven on all day. Well, in the late 70s, there were a couple of high profile deaths in Chicago, and the city of Chicago decided smartly that every home should have a CO detector. So they did that, but they didn't really think it through because they put the mandate in right before the holidays. Right before a very cold winter in Chicago.
Oh, geez. So everything was going off.
And then there was a temperature inversion where the warmer air with carbon dioxide came down into the city. And at the time, the levels of CO alarms were set at 9 parts per million, in line with the EPA outdoor air regulation, right? So that temperature inversion brought the CO down, and every single alarm across the
Really?
city of Chicago went off. And they call it the Night of Sirens.
Wow. That's super interesting.
Ooh, I'm going to look that
Yeah.
up.
Is there like a publication on that? I'd love to read that.
On NCOAA.com, under resources, you can read about it in our white paper.
Wow. If that's not your nugget of knowledge you
Dude.
just took away from the show,
Yeah.
then you're not paying attention, because that's where you need to go. That's what you need to read.
That's going to be a cool
If you're a
read.
nerd,
Yeah.
and I'm a nerd, I'm going to read that. You can bank on it. I'll be there.
I'm a bit of a nerd, so I FOIA'd requested all of the testimony in regard to that, because
Really?
after that incident, all of the alarms went up to 70 parts per million,
Wow.
from 9 to 70.
Wow.
When
So
the World Health Organization says 4.
Right.
So
Right.
we literally put bigger training wheels on our sensors because of this wild one incident that happened, and said, well, we can't deal with that again.
Yeah.
That's too many phone calls. So hire the parameter. Wow.
Right. Because too
Sounds
many
like-
alarms go off. My ears are sensitive.
Yeah. Well,
I would
hey,
rather
hey, you
be
woke
able
up-
to sleep at night
you woke up my babies
and
You know
not
what
be
I'm saying?
able to wake up.
My kids just
Yeah.
woke up. Thanks a lot. I have to work tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Even though you can't wake up tomorrow because you're, passed out. But, regulations are great.
Yeah, gotcha. All right. Well, I mean, that was a high point right there. That was awesome. We're getting close to our hitting our 30-minute window. We got somebody coming up behind us,
I
but
wish we had an hour.
I wish we did too. So here's what I want to do. I would like to hear from our guest. Give us your one big takeaway, whether it's where should people go to get more educated, what people should do. Lay it out there for us.
We're at the conference. This is the place to learn about this. Jim Davis is, my opinion, maybe the smartest guy in this field, related to the HVAC industry, and the people that are doing, David Richardson, those that are picking up some of the training from Jim. That's the place to go.
Wow. You stole my one deal there.
So we got a ditto.
Yeah.
And
well,
then just throw something on top.
My deal is that people need to do research and find out more about what they're buying when they buy their CO.
Read the specs.
Yes.
Right.
And who should they contact if they don't understand the specs?
Well, I would say they're local HVAC guy, but there's only one in Cleveland, and that's us. Okay, that really truly understands it.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful what you do with that.
Yeah.
But you can go on the websites and find the NCI CO monitor, because you want a monitor, not a detector.
Right.
That's what I would tell people. You're
Oh,
looking
okay.
for a monitor,
Yeah.
not a detector. That would be my little golden nugget.
Boom.
Okay, cool.
Second,
Yeah,
I was
you
about to say
want something
second
that
nugget right there.
has a long graph and everything.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
And NCOAA is here today because we are building a coalition of subject matter experts. We need those experts in order to help guide us on how to, say, sew up that CO safety net so people aren't falling through it any longer.
Yeah.
And the way to do that, join our coalition. We have a work group of call it emergency and trade responders. We have many firefighters on our work group, but not so many HVAC professionals. And we're looking for HVAC professionals to come in and help us, guide us on how to fix this issue.
Yeah.
So please join ncoaa.com/coalition.
Nice.
Awesome.
Well said.
All right, Mike, take us out with your nugget of knowledge.
I really love that story, but I mean, the kid thing with the nursery, man, that got me a little angry. I might start testing.
I thought you were going to say tearing up.
That
Mike-
teared me up.
Mike
man.
gets emotional.
I get a little emotional.